Welcome back to the Blue North. Today we're talking 2020 election, much like everybody right now, and we're awaiting the outcome. That Trump and his team are claiming voter fraud, and I tend to agree with them. I think there is something going on. I think there's something very fishy going on, and I can explain it. But before I do, I want to explain that I find it very funny that the very side, the Biden and the Democrats, are upset, and their supporters are very upset that somebody would say that there's voter fraud, and they say that there's no proof, and they're all upset and they're screaming. And I've been involved in many discussions and arguments lately about having to prove what I say by the people that have said for the last 4 years that Donald Trump is racist without proof. They've said that he's been colluding with the Russians without proof. They said that he had to be impeached on a phone call. They said he had all of these things without proof. It's been really comical for me in the last little bit, having all these people that supported all of these impeachments and Russian collusions, the Mueller report, all of these things without a shred of evidence. The fact that he's racist, they said he's this, he's that, he hasn't paid taxes, he's a womanizer, he's this, he hates blacks, he hates this. All of these things were unsubstantiated, without any kind of merit, without any proof. And yet, if you say there's voter fraud and there's evidence, they lose their minds. And that's what's been going on. I have a few friends that have lately just lost their mind, and they make up these things about how, oh, Trump did. No, it's not about Trump. It's not about Biden. It's not a character assassination. There is voter fraud going on, and I can prove it. I have, and well, Trump's team will probably look into it more. And it can all be brought down to, let's look at Wisconsin. Look at the graph of votes in Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin is a battleground state. That means both sides have a lot of support. So, if you look at the chart, as the votes come in during the night, there's an arc that goes across the graph for both, and it's equal across. It's pretty much an equal distance. Trump is a little bit in favor, and it stays that way from the opening of the poll right till about 2 o'clock in the morning. This is the problem. This is the evidence. At 2 o'clock in the morning, Biden hits a wall, stops dead, turns 90 degrees, and goes straight up past Trump's numbers, who has flatlined. So during this course of the ballot counting, Trump does not gain any support. Biden gets an astronomical amount of support. It's the mail-in ballots. So you mean to tell me, in a battleground state where it's heavily favored in Trump's favor, has been the entire day, the entire time that poll has been open, it's been in Trump's favor. And you mean to tell me that at 2 o'clock in the morning, he runs out of support? They do not count another ballot for him in that area, and Biden gets every last one. That's improbable. That's impossible. I have been involved in politics for 18 years, and I have been a scrutineer for provincial governments, and I have been scrutineers for federal governments, and I have been involved in Elections Canada myself, and I have never witnessed support for only one candidate for any amount of time. It's impossible. There's never, ever going to have that happen. There's no chance. It makes you almost tongue-tied with anger that has happened. Because you mean to tell me, and it's a battleground state. It's not even like if it was a Joe Biden, like if it's California, yeah. Because California is heavily Democrat. But I doubt you would even see there where the number of Republican votes flatlines and the Democrat goes straight up, let alone in a battleground state that you have lost from the opening of the ballot, or sorry, from the opening of the poll to 2 o'clock in the morning. It's improbable. But that's not the biggest problem. The problem isn't that Donald Trump is going to lose and that Joe Biden is going to win. That is a problem. I'll discuss that in a bit. The problem is the integrity has been removed from this election, that the people of America have no longer got control of their electoral system, that their opinion and their voice has now been silenced. The problem is that when you take away this liberty that people had to fight for, blacks had to fight for the right to vote in the United States. Women had to fight for the right to have their voices heard in America. Now they're taking everybody's voice away because certain parties want the power and they don't care to get it in an honest way. So they have taken your liberties away, America. They have taken your choice for leader and decided for you. This is something that should cause great concern for both parties, because moving forward, what's going to happen is you're going to have both parties now know what they have to do to win an election. What ridings, what areas, what part of each state needs to be won, and they will flood those areas with mail-in ballots and supports. In Wisconsin, they're finding 12,000 people that have died have voted already this year. That's when they say mail-in ballots, I didn't think they were coming that far. But apparently, 12,000 of them made it all the way from heaven in support of Joe Biden, because it flatlined for Trump. He never got any more votes, and the spike went through the roof. This is shameful that this is what's going on, and that anybody could defend it and support it. I'm kind of out of words almost. It's improbable, and if something is improbable, then chances are it should be looked at and investigated, and it will be. And then if we're wrong, if that is the case, that Joe Biden got every single vote and ballot, it should be it should be documented, because it would be a historical thing for one candidate to get that much support, that the graph actually went in a 90 and a straight vertical line. I mean, I would never even imagine that happening, but it has happened. So now I'd like to look into it and what caused it, how many votes it had, and what is the chances, what is the probability of that actually even happening. I want to know all of these things. But the problem is that if you can support this because you support Biden and you're okay with it, there's a big problem here. The biggest problem is that you're okay turning a blind eye to something that is historically been done before. This is where you look back to 1939 in Nazi Germany, where people started losing their liberties, and they started being unable to have an opinion. And it gets worse. People wanted to compare Trump to Hitler to make him look bad. They were willing to whitewash what Hitler did so that they could make Trump look horrible. But you can't whitewash what Hitler did. What he did was atrocious. The Democrats are taking your liberties away. When you no longer have the ability to pick your leader, they will pick for you. That's really bad. When they get in the White House, they're not all of a sudden going to find integrity. They're not all of a sudden going to do what you want. Joe Biden has been in power for 48 years. He hasn't done anything in that time to help anyone except for Hunter Biden. So what's going to happen when he gets in the White House? Well, they've already shown what they're going to do when they get in the White House. They're going to cater to Bernie's supporters, which will be socialistic. It'll be trying to make the United States economy more like Venezuela's, because that's where Bernie Sanders was really, heavily in support of the way Venezuela was doing things. They went bankrupt, they collapsed. Every socialistic country has collapsed. It has never, ever worked. But Biden's going to have to cater to those supporters. He's going to have to cater to the support that wants to take your guns away. He's already said that he's going to do that. He's been confronted for saying that. So this is very similar to what Germany did. Then they want to open the border. They want to allow all kinds of illegals to come in. They don't want anybody to have to show ID to vote. They want to make sanctuary cities. They want to allow late-term abortion. This is the scary one. Ralph Northam, the governor, Ralph Northam, said that in his state, I think it's Virginia that he's the governor of, you can have your child, the mother can give birth, and they will keep the child safe and comfortable until she and a physician can decide on whether or not they want to abort the child. Well, the problem is the child's born. It now has every right that you and I have. It's a human being. It no longer is a fetus or a parasite, like some of the people on the left are saying that's what fetuses are. They can get rid of them because they're parasites. This is now a human being. And Ralph Northam is okay with these people deciding after it's born whether or not they're going to keep it alive. No, it's alive. It stays alive. It gets adopted if you don't want it. That's how you deal with that. But there are a lot of things coming into play with Biden claiming the White House that are very disastrous. And it's going to be the economy that pays the biggest price, because Obama is where Biden is going to look for guidance. And what he did and his policies and everything else, you're going to go right back to it. So for 8 years, Obama was in power with Joe Biden right beside him, and he's now in power. He's going to be, I can't see Trump winning. He's going to be in power after Trump. Trump's 4 years are going to be remembered as some of the best 4 years in the American economy's history. And you're going to have bookends on either side that involve Joe Biden as the vice and as the president. And what's going to happen? It's going to be 8 years that when Trump got in power, he just reversed everything and everything went perfect for him, except for the fact that there was 4 years of unsubstantiated claims against him for all kinds of things, and he still accomplished everything. And then you're going to have Biden take over after him and bring back the 8 years that Obama had, because that's all he knows. It's going to be a complete and utter disaster in the United States. It's going to be tied up in the courts forever. It's going to be just one after another. And I hope that the actual proof comes out. It may not be rampant across the entire country, but in these battleground states where only Biden is getting any kind of support, he has gone from being behind in 5 of these battleground states to being ahead in 4, all based on mail-in ballots. So you mean to tell me that in battleground states, only one side is getting any support? It's impossible. But that's what's going on. So when someone on the Trump side or a Republican or even just someone that doesn't really know a whole lot about either is looking at that and saying, that looks pretty fishy, and gets attacked by the left for saying that there's no proof and that we owe them proof. Well, A, we don't owe you proof because you haven't given us proof for 4 years on anything you've been saying. And you're now getting angry when it's a very evident, a very, very visual evident that there's some voter fraud happening in these battleground states. So I think there's going to be some court findings. I don't know what's going to happen. I think it's going to get way uglier before it ever gets prettier. And I think that Biden's going to come out of this on top. I think that elections are going to change from 2020 on. I think they're forever going to have a stain on this election. I think that it's going to be something that affects the United States moving forward for the rest of their existence. So this has been an absolute disaster, and it's going to continue to be a disaster. And as this disaster claims the White House and starts with the process, you're going to see ISIS rear its ugly head. You're going to see Russia do more in the Ukraine, and over there they're going to be emboldened to do more. You're going to see Iran claim way more. They're going to come off of being on sanctioned. I think Trump has them sanctioned. He has them so sanctioned that they're willing to sit and talk peace with Israel just because they are at the brink. They're hurting so bad. You either play nice or you're sanctioned. That's what Trump says. Now, with Biden and the Democrats, they will be able to have nukes again. They will be able to get money again. They will be not sanctioned, and the Biden's team will go after the embassy in Jerusalem, remove it, not support our allies in Israel, and weaken our stance across the globe, just like Obama did. It's going to be a really bad year. I think Biden's only going to last a year before he's incapacitated. And then you're going to have Kamala Harris. And they didn't even like her in California. So if your own state doesn't like you and the way you deal with it, you now are going to be in charge of the entire country and the economy. And it should be an interesting vote in 2024. But will people have figured out the best way to cheat by then, or will it go back to having some integrity? That is what we have to wait and see. We're still waiting to see what's going to happen in this one. So hopefully Donald Trump can get some wins, sneak out a win here. But it's not looking that way, and it's very shameful. So when someone says, prove it to me, the proof is very evident. Evil hasn't been hiding itself for a long time now, and people aren't calling it evil. So I haven't got a lot of faith in this one. Stay tuned for more podcasts on the Blue North.